Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan calls for provocations to be stopped in the country in regards to mass protests triggered by the jailing of the mayor of Istanbul.
Ukrainian and U.S. officials held a second round of talks in the Saudi capital, Riyadh, to explore the possibility of a ceasefire with Russia.
Greenland's prime minister accused Washington of political interference ahead of an upcoming visit by Second Lady Usha Vance.
Commemorations have been held in Germany, France and Spain for the victims of the 2015 Germanwings plane crash.
Thousands of protesters from the opposition in Turkey staged a rally outside Istanbul City Hall on Monday evening in support of the mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu. The protest came after İmamoğlu was ordered officially jailed by an Istanbul court on Sunday, pending trial on corruption charges. On Monday, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called for an end to the mass protests.
Daha önce de birkaç kez çağrıda bulundum. Bugün tekrarlıyorum. Provokasyonlarla vatandaşlarımızın huzurunu bozmaktan artık vazgeçin. Cesaretiniz varsa yolsuzlukların, hırsızlıkların, alınan rüşvetlerin, yapılan usulsüzlüklerin hesabını verin.
İmamoğlu's detention last week sparked the largest wave of street demonstrations in Turkey in more than a decade. Later Monday, anti-government protesters clashed with police amid the growing demonstrations. The Istanbul mayor is widely seen as the top challenger who could most likely defeat President Erdogan in a general election.
The arrest of Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul and the leading opposition figure in Turkey, has drawn concern from the European Commission, which questioned the country's adherence to its long-established democratic tradition.
Regarding the arrest of the mayor İmamoğlu and the protesters give rise to the questions regarding Turkey's adherence to its long-established democratic tradition. As a Council of Europe member and an EU candidate, Turkey must uphold democratic values. These rights, the rights of elected officials, as well as the right of peaceful demonstrations, need to be fully respected.
While calling on Turkey to uphold democratic values, Brussels' reaction stopped short of explicit condemnation. İmamoğlu has been arrested on charges of corruption, but he was also charged with aiding terrorism and other offenses. He has categorically denied all allegations, noting that up to this point, the accusations are almost exclusively based on testimony from anonymous witnesses and lack concrete evidence. His removal from office has sparked mass protests across Turkey, the largest in over a decade, highlighting widespread public discontent. There were also other international reactions, with the Council of Europe condemning the arrest and demanding his immediate release. French and German officials also voiced concerns, describing the move as a setback for democracy and urging Turkey to ensure fair legal proceedings. This development underscores growing tensions between Turkey and its Western partners over democratic norms.
The Israeli military says it intercepted a long-range missile launched from Yemen over Jerusalem on Monday, triggering air raid sirens across the city. Local officials said they believed the missile to be from Houthi rebels, where a handful of long-range missiles had been fired from following the resumption of the Israeli war in Gaza. The attacks came as the European Union Foreign Policy Chief, Kaja Kallas, paid a visit to Israel and the occupied West Bank, where she met with the Palestinian Prime Minister.
My message during my visit here are very clear. Hamas must release all hostages. Israel must fully reinstate humanitarian aid to Gaza, and negotiations must resume. Prime Minister, you can count on the EU's support to return to the ceasefire.
Last week, the Israeli military resumed air and ground operations in Gaza after a relatively quiet 42 days. The total number of Palestinians killed in the Gaza Strip since the start of the Israel-Hamas war has now passed 50,000, according to Gaza's health ministry.
At least one person has been killed and multiple injured in US airstrikes targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen, according to the militant group. The attack took down a building in a western neighborhood of Yemen's capital Sana'a, wounding a reported 13 people. It's the latest in a wave of strikes on the Middle Eastern country as part of a campaign by US President Donald Trump to remove the group's threat on both Israel and maritime trade and to apply pressure on Iran, the Houthis' main benefactor. Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, claims the attacks have taken out key Houthi leadership, although this has not been acknowledged by the rebel group. The US campaign against the Houthis began after the group threatened to begin targeting Israeli ships again, following Israel's block on aid entering the Gaza Strip.
US President Donald Trump has said a planned visit of the Second Lady Asha Vance and that of senior White House officials to Greenland is not a provocation. During a cabinet meeting on Monday, Trump took a more conciliatory tone, casting the visit this week as based on friendliness. He claims to have been receiving positive overtures from the island, although authorities there have expressed concerns ahead of the visit.
Yeah, well, not provocation. This is friendliness, not provocation. We're dealing with a lot of people from Greenland that would like to see something happen with respect to their being properly protected and properly taken care of. They're calling us, we're not calling them.
Greenlandic Prime Minister warned of American aggression and lamented what he called a mess caused by the upcoming visit from Vance. The U.S. Second Lady is set to travel to Greenland this week as Trump continues to suggest the U.S. could take control of the mineral-rich Arctic island.
Please raise your right hand.
Ukrainian officials held a second round of ceasefire talks with U.S. officials in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky tasked his defense minister Rustem Umerov with leading the delegation. Umerov said in a post after the meeting on social media platform X that many key points, including energy, were discussed. He described the meeting as focused and productive. Zelensky, addressing the meeting, reiterated his country's commitment to peace. He also emphasized the need to exert more pressure on his Russian counterpart.
Наша команда працює абсолютно конструктивно. Розмова достатньо корисна. Робота делегацій триває. Але про що б ми зараз не говорили, з нашими партнерами потрібно дотиснути Путіна до реального наказу припинити удари. Хто цю війну приніс, той і повинен її забрати.
Leading the talks for Washington was U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff. Speaking to U.S. media outlets on Sunday, Witkoff said he believes Putin, despite European concerns, is also interested in peace. On Friday's EU summit in Brussels, leaders agreed on the need to be fully capable of defending themselves against further Russian attacks by 2030. Downplaying Europe's fears, Witkoff said he takes Putin at his word that he's not interested in expanding his territory.
I just don't see that he wants to take all of Europe. This is a much different situation than it was in World War II. In World War II, there was no NATO. So you have countries that are armed there. To me, it just does. I take him at his word in this sense. So, and I think the Europeans are beginning to come to that belief too. But it sort of doesn't matter. That's an academic issue.
Witkoff and his team are set to meet the Russian delegation on Monday. Trump had said previously he hoped this round of talks can offer some breakthrough towards finally ending the war.
Greenland's prime minister accused Washington of interfering in its political affairs ahead of an upcoming visit to the territory by Second Lady Asha Vance and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Speaking to a Greenlandic newspaper, Midday called the visit aggressive, particularly objecting to Waltz joining. He added that his presence in Greenland would fuel American belief in Trump's mission. Trump has repeatedly insisted that the U.S. annex Greenland, a move opposed by the Greenlandic and Danish governments. The White House said the upcoming visit is a cultural one, during which the U.S. delegation will visit historical sites to learn about Greenlandic heritage and attend the national dog sled race.
Commemorations have been held in Germany, France and Spain for the victims of the Germanwings plane crash 10 years after the tragedy took place. 150 people were killed after the passenger jet, which was travelling from Barcelona in Spain to Düsseldorf in Germany, was deliberately downed by its co-pilot in March 2015. The victims included 16 students and 2 teachers from a high school in the western German town of Haltern am See, who were returning home from an exchange trip to Spain. In Haltern, students placed roses in the courtyard of the Joseph Koenig High School, while hundreds of people gathered in front of a plaque bearing the victims' names. At 10:41 a.m., the exact time of the crash, a moment of silence was held. Wreaths were also laid at the town cemetery, where some of the students are buried. Elsewhere, relatives of victims travelled to the site of the crash in the French Alps, while commemorations were also planned at the airports in Düsseldorf and Barcelona.
South Korea's constitutional court has overturned the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, reinstating him as acting president. Han stepped into the role after President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached by the National Assembly over his imposition of martial law, but was impeached himself not long after. Han was accused of abetting Yoon's martial law declaration and obstructing efforts to open independent investigations against him, but the court ruled that his alleged actions weren't against the law. The unprecedented successive impeachments that suspended the country's top 2 officials have intensified domestic divisions and deepened worries about the country's diplomatic and economic activities.